Morning, everybody. Good morning. Head thumbs up over here.
Good morning. I'm Ruth Ryder, the Acting Director of the Office of Special Education Programs in the U.S. Department of Education. The Office of Special Education Programs, or OSEP, is dedicated to improving results for infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities ages birth through 21 by supporting states and local programs to provide comprehensive Part C and Part B services under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or the IDEA. OSEP also administers Part D of the IDEA, which funds national activities under technical assistance, personnel development, technology, and parent and training to improve outcomes for children with disabilities and their families. Though I'm not able to be there today with you in person, I wanted to welcome you to the 5th Annual Inclusion Collaborative Conference and to let you know how excited I am about the plenaries, the sessions, and the networking opportunities that you will be participating in over the next few days. This event is a chance for you to learn evidence-based practices to support inclusive opportunities, instructions, and interventions for children with disabilities. I hope that you take the time to reflect on the new information you're learning and to think about if it's right for your students, and if so, how you can implement it either through supporting others in your schools and programs to use the practice or changing your own practice. Changing practice can be hard, and it may feel as if you need superhero powers, but the fact that you are here suggests that you're ready to embrace your role as spectacular inclusioneers. To support you in your work, I wanted to highlight some resources on evidence-based practices to support all children that are aligned to what you will be learning at the conference. I'll provide you with some information on how to access each of these resources online throughout my remarks. In early childhood, the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center, ECTA, has a number of resources to promote inclusion, including the Division for Early Childhood Recommended Practices, all of which can be found on ECTA's website, ectacenter.org, as you can see on the slide. ECTA has plans for a number of new inclusion resources, so be on the lookout for TED-like talks from experts on inclusion, video guides of high-quality inclusion practices, and indicators of high-quality inclusion, to name a few. Also in early childhood, the National Center on Pyramid Model Innovations has a number of resources to promote young children's social, emotional, and behavioral competence, foster inclusion, and address disproportionate discipline practices. In the K-12 space, OSEP funds the TIES Center, T-I-E-S, which is a center on inclusive practices and policies. Its purpose is to create sustainable changes in kindergarten through grade 8 school and district educational systems so that students with significant cognitive disabilities can fully engage in the same instructional and non-instructional activities as their general education peers while being instructed in a way that meets individual learning needs. We also fund the Positive Behavior Intervention and Support Center. The purpose of PBIS is to improve the effectiveness, efficiency, and equity of schools and other agencies. PBIS improves social, emotional, and academic outcomes for all students, including students with disabilities and students from underrepresented groups. The other resource I wanted to remind you of is the Parent Training and Information Center in your region, Parents Helping Parents. Check them out online at php.com. This center can be a resource to families you serve as they work to navigate the special education system and understand their rights under the IDEA. Finally, be sure to visit OSEP's website for additional resources and easy access to each of the centers I mentioned. There's sites.ed.gov/IDEA, which we call the IDEA website, and also the OSEPideas.work.org website, where you can navigate to find a center on the Find a Center page. As you go through these next few days, know that OSEP is a partner with you to help improve outcomes for children with disabilities and their families. Inclusioneers unite.
All right, let's clap for Dr. Ruth Ryder. Woohoo! This is our 5th annual conference, and we have had OSEP participating in either virtually or in person every year, so we're very honored to be on their radar screen. So thank you, Dr. Ruth. So I wanted to welcome everybody. How many of you have been here before to an Inclusion Collaborative Conference? Oh, we have some newbies. That's exciting. So welcome. Hopefully you'll come back again next year. This is our 5th year. My staff and I were very young when we started doing these, and so we are aging appropriately with this conference. This conference is really exciting because not only is it our 5th, it's our largest one ever. We're launching a new initiative, the California One Initiative, and the Highway to Success, which you can find out more about. We're also having a soft opening of our Inclusion Makerspace that we have on site here. If you follow the chalk drawings out by their food, we have 100 books that you can get free if you come visit, 1 per person. Come on, that was exciting, right? All right. And I would like to also let you know that we have over 30 sites here virtually. So can we all give it up for our virtual participants? Woo! Last year we had over 800 people virtually, so we are like really wondering what will it be, what will our count be by this Friday. So thank you all for participating this year. We really want to make sure everyone knows that our true belief is that every individual should have access, regardless of abilities and disabilities, to quality, inclusive learning and community environments. And we like to promote that culture of welcoming and belonging of all individuals. So we can say that in the elevator now because we practiced for years. So someone wearing this shirt, you could ask them that just to see if they can tell you, okay? We always like to remind you, October is Safety Month, yes. And some of us know about the Great American Shakeout. It's done, we're not having it today. However, we need to be ready if something happens. So if there is an emergency evacuation, I can actually say just follow Dr. Dewan and she'll leave you out to the parking lot and we'll take roll, which would be exciting, but we could do it, okay? So the bottom line is, if we do have to leave, take your purse, okay? I always say that at the end. Because we do need to report attendance at the end of that. So hopefully we will not experience it, but just in case, like everyone to be ready. You virtual audience, you are very lucky. You get to avoid that. We really want to make sure everyone knows what the Santa Clara County Office of Education does. We promote and serve districts and provide services to districts within our county. We also coordinate and do a lot of things statewide. And we have quite a few direct services that we provide, special ed and OYA, which is the Opportunity Youth Academy, and we have alternative schools. And we provide a lot of technical assistance throughout our county, and actually the Inclusion Collaborative has been reaching farther and farther around the state. This is our awesome staff. Can everyone clap for them? Oops. I just want you to know that there's not a lot of us, okay? And these people, all in this picture from last year, came back to do it again. What does that tell you? These are passionate people who truly believe in serving kids with disabilities and making sure they're included. So I want to make sure they all are feeling the wealth of thankfulness that I have. We have Kim Boverio is the manager and oversees our conference. So I'd like everyone to give a clap for Kim. Come on up here. We could not do it without her vision. She is really good at big picture, whereas I have crazy ideas. So it's a great combination. So I just wanted to acknowledge our staff and thank everybody. Again, we believe in welcoming and belonging all students and all adults, all individuals. So does everyone feel welcome today? Yes. Yes. Thank you, Albert. That was nice. Virtual sites, are you making sure everyone's welcome? Yes. They said yes. Okay, good. Because they really show, the research shows that if you feel welcome and you belong, you actually are able to engage and learn. So I'm hoping that that's something, if nothing else, that you take back with you. We could not do this without our good friend, Mrs. Charmaine Warmenhoven. She is our funder advisor, friend extraordinaire. She's, for over 13 years, has donated $1.3 million to us. She donates every year so we can have our warm line. Thank you. Charmaine will be here on Friday so we can embarrass her in person, okay? But she is really believed in what we're doing. She really believes that all kids need to be included for the betterment of our society. And with her funding, we are able to have our warm line that we're able to serve many, many people free of charge, which is hardly heard of these days. So thank you, Charmaine. We couldn't do it without you.
The Inclusion Collaborative promotes and supports inclusion for all students by providing professional development, coaching, advocacy, and awareness for school districts throughout the state of California and our community partners throughout the Bay Area. Our annual Inclusion Collaborative Conference brings together the leading practitioners and proponents of inclusion throughout the state and nation to advance evidence-based practices for including all students regardless of abilities and disabilities. We provide for virtual conferences, virtual learning with online modules, sessions, and communities of practice. We constantly innovate to provide better access and better inclusion for all our students. Please like and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Pinterest. Every individual has a right to quality, inclusive learning in community environments.
That we finally decided we needed to do a PSA last year because people didn't know what we did. So that's our PSA, and Sung Park was our star. So clap for Sung Park. Thank you very much. By the way, all of our PSAs, and we have a YouTube channel on our website, and over 36 of the trainings this year will be actually recorded and in our YouTube channel, and past conferences are there. So you could actually go on our YouTube channel and never leave. Do you know what I mean? I'm serious, because we now have 5 years worth of trainings. So we want to always make sure that we define what inclusion is, and it's with children with and without disabilities, participating together, learning together, having activities together. Everyone benefits. All kids benefit from modification routines, and children of all abilities are welcome, and inclusion teaches children a lot, but to respect differences specifically, and it really ensures a better foundation of diversity and acceptance early on. So we can't say enough about why we support inclusion. Equity is a new buzzword around here, right? Has anyone heard of equity? It's not equal, it's equitable. So we just wanted to make sure everyone knows what our definition of equity is within the Santa Clara County of Education. We have a new California One initiative, which we'll be sharing about later today. And the definition of equity as defined by our project leadership team is equity is access to quality education and resources through universally designed, inclusive, unbiased instruction, transparent and accountable for the success of all youth. Does that sound good? It's been approved. Yay! Everyone say yay! Yay. So virtual people, I didn't hear you. Yay. Okay, thank you. This, I would like to have Kim Boverio share, is our map of where we've come with the Inclusion Collaborative. Not only have we gotten bigger, but we've gotten older. No, we serve more age groups. So I'm going to have Kim explain.
We just wanted to do a little timeline for you guys to show that back in 2014, we were only doing it for birth to age 8, and we really only had about 30 sessions. And then in 2015, we expanded it to grade 6, and in 2016, we expanded it to grade 12, and this year, we're saying prenatal to age 24. Woo! And so if you go to the next. And so Sung Park, one of our great inclusion training specialists, really takes to heart our inclusion logo and turned it into Inclusioneers by adding some capes. So please take a moment, go outside, take some photos with our capes out in the photo booth, and tag Inclusioneers on Facebook and Twitter so we can follow everybody on there. And this 5th annual conference is a chance for everybody to interact and reflect on this, understand and learn evidence-based practices to help individuals involved in the care and education from prenatal to age 24 with and without disabilities to create or enhance equity and inclusive practices in the respective programs and the communities in which they live. Are you ready? 3 packed days. So this is just a little graph to show that When we first started in 2014, YouTube live streaming was not in our midst. We used Edmodo. So we have definitely grown into the YouTube live streaming world, and we're very excited to go up to 36 live streams this year. It's very amazing how much we went from 13 to 36. So you guys really won't leave our YouTube channel. You'll be there all day. And we really appreciate everybody agreeing to do virtual throughout the state of California, because it is difficult to get release time or travel money to get here. So we really appreciate all of our virtual host sites participating.
We also have a map that's out in the lobby that shows you all the people, sites that are participating virtually. So you would be amazed the vast miles of where our conference is today. So thank you.
And so our conference desired outcomes is, number one thing, we want you to develop relationships across agencies and support inclusive practices. So when you're here, make sure you have your business cards ready so you can give them out and follow up after the event. Meet and learn from the peers to problem solve and create inclusive programs for children from prenatal to 24. And we want to understand and learn about the research findings, models, and evidence-based practices to guide inclusive practices, enhance equity, policies, and professional development.
So we always like to start out with our expectations. Events always go better when we know what to expect. So maybe one of these days we'll do a social story of how to go to the Inclusion Collaborative Conference. But we like to have expectations in 4 different categories. If we all have a bunch of rules and we don't know why they happen, then they're stupid and we don't do them, right? So we want to model like we should be working with our kids. So if we have expectations that are in the category of safe and healthy, in the category of respectful, in the category of friendly and kind, we'll all remember them better. Isn't that great? So I'll let you go ahead and read those. Probably the big highlights are, make sure you take care of yourself. Does everyone know where the bathrooms are? I'll be able to tell when you don't. I'm just telling you. So there's some on this side and there's some on that side. Follow the signs. If you need to stand up and move around, do that. None of us ever sit this long in our life, do we? And we always talk about cell phones. When one cell phone rings, what happens? We all lose our mind and want to know about that conversation. And so then no one knows. So I'm going to go ahead and put mine off because I was having it on because I was waiting for Kim this morning. And so here we are. And then we always talk about being friendly and kind, stepping up and stepping back. If you're a person who always wants to talk, maybe put your hand back and let someone else who never wants to talk. Does that make sense? Okay. So I just wanted to make sure we review these. These are great expectations for family events too, by the way, just as a hint. Kim.
All right, I'm going to do a quick overview so we can get started with some of our collaborative partners here to help us with our welcome. We have our event website and mobile app. Please make sure you check the back of your name tab. Instructions are on there if you haven't downloaded it yet. Please be aware that in-person sessions, we do the best to accommodate with all of them. We have limited capacity, so please be aware that room capacity must be adhered to for safety. And remember, all virtual sessions will be recorded. So if you see that little blue virtual next to the description of the session, it is recorded. So if it's full, go to another session and go back and watch that one. That's what we suggest. Make sure you also take advantage of our continuing education units, which are from the University of Pacific. $160. It's on schedule. Then we have also time to dance. All right. So professional development hours. All right. So we have certificates of completion. They will be on schedule at the end of today and every day after. Everything will be posted on there as well. Make sure you complete your surveys and evaluations. This is how we expanded our conference this year from the evaluation feedback we got last year. We heard the feedback. We heard that we needed to identify more student groups and have these sessions. So we really tried to do that this year. Our lovely sponsors, we have Strong Start supporting our breakfast on Friday, Lakeshore sponsoring our coffee break for the exhibitors tomorrow. We have over 23 exhibitors in here tomorrow all day for you guys. In this room. So please join us tomorrow for the exhibitors. And I'll turn it over to Kathy.
There'll be a raffle too. There will be a raffle. Okay, you want to be here tomorrow. It is my great pleasure to introduce our County Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Marianne Dewan. She is a true champion for inclusion. She makes my work very easy by making it all happen above me. Her key values of equity, diversity, inclusion, and partnership are perfect for what the Inclusion Collaborative does, and I'm honored to have her come up and welcome you today. Let's clap for her.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And I do want to point out on the slide before you that we also have listed our County Board of Education. And the County Board of Education is a true collaborative partner with me as County Superintendent to help further the objectives and purposes of the Inclusion Collaborative. So good morning, Inclusioneers. Good morning. I'm very proud to wear my Inclusioneers Unite t-shirt, and I'd like to welcome you to the 5th Annual Inclusion Collaborative State Conference. As Kathy said, I'm Dr. Marianne Dewan, and I'm the County Superintendent of Schools for the Santa Clara County Office of Education. And although we are geographically bound and located here in Santa Clara County, our reach goes far beyond Santa Clara County in our programs and services, and certainly with our inclusion work. Here at the County Office of Education, we are investing for impact. Our theme and our purpose and the focus that grounds us is investment for impact. We are funded by public dollars, and it's really important to me that those dollars get stretched as far as possible to have the greatest impact on children. Our number one goal is to improve student outcomes and to ensure high quality, equitable, inclusive learning for all students. For all students. Over the next few days, we'll talk a lot about inclusive practices for youngsters with disabilities. But inclusive practices go into all aspects of humanity and all aspects of people, including language, culture, and other components. We use our guiding principles of equity, diversity, inclusion, and partnership to support our work with students, with educators, schools, districts, and community partners. And as Kathy mentioned, those 4 principles are really solidly anchored in our work at the Inclusion Collaborative. I think your time here today is a key piece of helping us reach that goal, as you're going to learn evidence-based practices to enhance inclusive practice for students with and without disabilities in our schools and in our communities. And your time here is a gift. It's a gift to us and to the students and communities that you serve. And I want to thank you all for giving of your time and talent to this important event. Please know that I join you in this learning journey. I've been involved in education for over 30 years and in special education throughout that entire time. And I have long been a champion of inclusive practice. Sometimes words take on different meanings for different groups. Sometimes inclusion is considered a bad word or difficult, and perhaps school communities had failed attempts at embedding inclusive practice. And so I know that that journey of learning and discovery is one that is ongoing, and we continue to seek best practices and strategies to provide students with the least restrictive environment and an inclusive and welcoming classroom. I think it's an educational journey, it's a professional journey, it's an ethical journey, and it's a social justice journey. And I hope that you will continue to join me on that journey. We, as I know you all do, believe in the potential and the abilities of all children. We want, as part of our investing in impact, to understand that it's also an investment in strengths, that a strengths-based focus is what really helps us drive improvement and build on the capacity that we each have. I think the most important superpower is the power of what teachers do every day in the classroom. There is nothing more important, more impactful than what happens with students every day in the classroom. To that end, I think teacher expectations and teacher beliefs and strengths and potential are really essential to any improvement effort. But for that to be real, teachers have to believe that they're capable of meeting the needs of all the students in their classroom. I believe events like the Inclusion Collaborative Annual State Conference help us all grow in our beliefs of our own abilities to meet the needs of everyone we serve. The Santa Clara County Office of Education has launched several initiatives to look at our practices. One, our office is conducting a county-wide study on the continuum of special education services in our county. This includes the work that our local school districts are doing. Special education is our largest service area as the County Office of Education, and we provide direct support to students and indirect support to school districts. And we desire to support them as they review and update their programs to ensure they are more inclusive for all students. Working in partnership with our school districts and our charter schools, we're trying to discover the kinds of trainings and resources that we can provide to accelerate that journey and to expand inclusive, equitable practices everywhere. The objectives for today include developing some relationships across agencies to support inclusive practice, to understand what the research tells us about instructional practices, what models are working for all students, and to help guide our work, and to learn from our peers to problem solve and create inclusive programs for all children, birth to age 24. I think it takes a lot of courage for elected officials to step up, to run for office. And I often reminisce about some of our favorite historical elected officials over time. And I think about President Franklin D. Roosevelt and what he said when he was talking about society. He said, "We're trying to construct a more inclusive society. We're going to make a country in which no one is left out." All of you are here doing just that. What better place to create an inclusive society than in our schools? What our youngsters learn and experience in school helps shape them as citizens and caring adults. Schools truly are a place where no one should be left out and all students are valued. We all believe in creating inclusive opportunities for our students, and I'm personally grateful to have such an expert team in our Inclusion Collaborative that is led so expertly by our Executive Director, Kathy Wahl. Thank you. I want to thank all of you again for your time and expertise. This is not a sit and get experience. You come with expertise and knowledge and problem-solving abilities, and that is going to enrich and enhance your experience. And it will enable you to serve our students with and without disabilities more effectively and help us make a positive impact on their education. I'm very proud that the Santa Clara County Office of Education can serve as your host for this statewide conference, and I wish you the most productive and rewarding day. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Dewan. Do you guys all feel energized, ready to go? It sounds like we need to build relationships too, which is one of my favorite things. So just have fun while you're here. I wanted to announce that as of this past Monday, we have a special welcome from the former First Lady of California. Maria Shriver is going to be welcoming us. Does everyone know who she is? Come on. She is going to be welcoming us. That was a phone. Okay.
I'm so happy to be talking to all of you who have gathered together to talk about the subject of inclusion. It is a subject near and dear to my heart. My mother spent her life fighting for inclusion for those with intellectual disabilities, inclusion for people with intellectual disabilities in the school system, in housing, when it comes to jobs. But I think we're really need to have this conversation as a society, include all of us, men, women, old, young, different parties, all coming together to listen to each other, to hear about what we need as a society. The more we include, I think the more we advance. So I hope you have a great day. I hope you put on your listening buds. I hope you hear the people talking, and I hope you come out of that inspired to include and inspired that you're on the right track by even gathering to discuss this subject. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I think you invited me, didn't you? Or maybe you just invited me to do this video. I don't know. But good luck and great job.
Are you inspired? We can watch it every day if you want to. I would like to thank Ellie Ho. She has a connection, and we said we've been channeling Maria and reading her books, and it happened. So thank you so much. And our real dream is that next year we have her as a keynote speaker. So just letting you know. I would like to announce we also have another very honored, esteemed guest amongst us who is going to welcome everybody, and he's in the front row. Dun, da, da, da. He doesn't know it, but I actually shook his hand like 1992 when I was doing breastfeeding awareness, because, you know, I'm always doing some kind of awareness. And so anyways, thank you very much, Senator Beall. Come on up and welcome everybody. He is a champion for all individuals. We're honored to have him.
Hi, everybody. It's going to be an exciting year this coming year in 2019 in the state legislature because, hey, we're going to have a new governor. You know, we're going to have, I think, hopefully a focus on inclusion. I'm sure we will in terms of the legislature. The new governor hopefully will focus on this issue. I think I've heard many speeches from the various candidates, and it looks like it's a consensus that this will be a topic of discussion. So I'm happy to be here with you, and I'm happy to be here with you in this exciting time right now that we have where we're going through a transition in the government. That's very exciting. First time, you know, it's like 8 years since we elected a new governor, see? So this is like a big time to come up with the new ideas, the new directives, the directives that should have been done maybe over time but haven't. You're so much further ahead of us in the legislature in terms of your thinking about some of these issues, I'll just say that. So it's really important to have that understanding in the legislature of all the new ideas and new directives, policies, things that we could do. I'm especially interested in this subject because of my own family, having been a father of somebody who has developmental and behavioral health issues. So I'm dedicating my career for this subject, and we'll be working with you as a member of the Budget Committee, Appropriations Committee, and so forth that I have for years championed programs for people with developmental disabilities, including working I was seeing Maria up there. She was, I remember being with her and getting people in the Capitol to hire people as staff people, you know, and working with her to get the various legislators to hire people and get them jobs working in the Capitol. And she and I worked out a scheme to do that, got that done. We had a bill last year that I'd like to mention. That was SB 1019. It was my top priority bill, and that was to put behavioral health services in schools. We think that would be a great advantage to teachers and to the academic performance of students to have that backstop of behavioral health services in the schools to aid the teachers and aid the students in terms of their learning, so that we always have a ready, available behavioral health services in all the schools in California. I serve on the State Mental Health Services Advisory Commission, Prop 63, which allocates the mental health $2 billion a year. And this is a high priority for our commission, and we'll be working next year with the new governor. The bill, unfortunately, that I had, SB 1019, was vetoed by the governor. He vetoed about 40 mental health bills, by the way. So mental health was not a priority for him. But I think the next governor, mental health will be the priority, and I think behavioral health services, special ed, all those programs will be high priority. I'm especially supportive of budget. When you talk about equity, that was a good way of putting that. When you talk about equity, I'm concerned about the fact that a lot of the services we have are sort of complaint-based, like if a parent has to petition and get through IEP and all that kind of stuff. And I know that that's not a fair process and equity process for all kids. All kids should have a early screening, diagnosis, treatment, evaluation that includes developmental evaluations that can assist educators in developing a good plan for that student. So I think the new governor is going to focus on maternal, child, prenatal health, all those issues, so that we can have the student ready to be educated when they come into the education system. So the developmental and health area should be blended better with the education area. So we want them to work more closely together in preparing a student through pre-K and all the early start programs and all those programs. So we are working on that in terms of getting that particular issue worked out. The new governor is developing strategies. Let's say the governor I hope gets elected. I'll put it that way. I won't mention his name because he's got 4 kids though. I mean, the governor we had before had no kids. Now we have one that we're hopefully going to have one that has 4 kids. It's kind of good. But we talked about these kinds of issues. I also want to say that housing is important. Housing and families is important when you talk about equity, because if you don't have a safe place to live, you don't have a family that's going to be supportive, it's really hard to have success. And so we are working on housing for families with children, making sure we don't have homeless students in our schools. We have a school district right here. I was talking to Superintendent two weeks ago. He was talking about letting the parking lot in one of the schools be a place where people can park their cars. And the families that had kids in the school could park their cars in the school parking lot so that they can have a place to be safe and then live, because they lived in their cars. The families lived in the cars because they became homeless. So we have hundreds and thousands of families that are homeless. And I think education should not be biased in terms of economic or racial inequities, and that's what equity is all about. You want to have everybody have equal opportunity, equal services for education. So California has got to go a ways in terms of special education to make it fully implementing a social justice model. Okay, so we intend to make that happen. And this is going to be an exciting time to actually make that happen in the next year. I hope you're with me on that. We have to have all kids get treated in a equitable manner. We have to have all kids receive equitable health care, equal health care. We should have screening and developmental evaluations for all kids. We cannot have the education based on how many psychologists, psychiatrists, and lawyers the family has, right? I mean, you have some families. I talked to a family in my district with the Down syndrome, and she was a single mom, and she had a couple other kids. She didn't know all the services that her child was able to get. Whereas we have some families in wealthier school districts, and they come to the IEP meetings fully loaded with all the psychologists and professionals that they hire to help develop the plan for that child. I find that kind of un-American in terms of what we have a goal in terms of our education. We should have equal treatment. So equal justice, that's equal justice for each child. So I'm standing for that. I want you to know that Senator Ben Allen, the chairman of our Senate Education Committee, will be spending a lot of time on special education with me in the next year, and we will fulfill our goal of bringing more money and higher funding for those programs for all kids to have, like you say, have everybody included. So thank you very much. Have a good conference. Come up with some great ideas. It's a good time to do it. Let's get involved and come back to me with some ideas that you can figure out would be the best directions that we need to have. And I appreciate all your hard work. And you have 3 days, right? Yeah. So you guys are going to come up with some great ideas for me, right? Yeah. Are you? Are you going to come up with some good ideas? Okay, way to go. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, and have a great conference.
Thank you very much. Did you guys get that? 3 days to be writing down things for Senator Beall? Okay, good. All of us, and the governor. While they're taking photos, we would like to acknowledge that it's our 5th annual, so we have some special recognitions that we would like to make sure everyone is aware of. We have lovely plaque for OSEP, who have been part of our conference for the last 5 years. We have a nice souvenir acknowledgement for the California Department of Education. Is Dr. Leong here? Dr. Jane, are you here? Are you in the office? In the house? Well, anyways, we'll get that to her. We have a nice recommendation, a dedication acknowledgement for the Santa Clara County Office of Education. I'd like to give that to Dr. Mary Ann Dewan. Everyone can clap now because she sponsored this for 5 years. Thank you. Oh, I have to take a picture. And we would like to acknowledge First Five of Santa Clara County. They also have been on our journey with us the last 5 years. Eula, are you in the house? Delina? Oh, Eula's coming. She didn't know we're going to do this. Poor thing. Eula is our representative from First Five. Thank you very much. They've been sponsoring and being supportive of this for the last 5 years. And I have to get a picture. By the way, Eula is the one who scored these books in the makerspace. Everyone say thank you to Eula. And we have 2 virtual sites. Virtual sites, we haven't forgotten you. We would like to acknowledge no, that's the wrong one. They were mailed out, I'm sorry. Sacramento County Office of Education, give it up for them. They've had 5 years of like 100+ people. So we really, truly appreciate it. And Orange County Department of Ed, we mailed yours too. They also have been doing this for 5 years for many, many people. So thank you very much for all the support. And without further ado, we're going to introduce Howard Doy, who's going to now introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
He's going to talk.
And welcome, everyone. Once in our lifetimes, we meet somebody that inspires us. And through this conference, 3-day conference, we're going to learn so much about inclusion activities, evidence-based practice. But the reality is, when we meet somebody that's gone through the process, we know that this process works. And so I have the privilege to introduce Brandon Gruber, who will be doing our keynote speech this morning. He's a special person, and you're gonna hear about this in a few minutes. But behind everyone and this wonderful person is also parents in the community. So Teresa, and to Margo too as well. We'll kind of hear the story too of how this has been created, and again, more than anything else, to inspire you with these wonderful, I think, experience and talk. So without further ado,
I'm going to introduce Brandon. Okay.
Everyone clap. I just wanted to recognize that Margo is one of the school admin who made inclusive education happen. Clap for her. And not least is the momager, Teresa, his mother, who said, hey, she asked questions. So I just want to really acknowledge that we're delighted to have Brandon here. He's amazing. Wait till you hear what he has to say. Oh, you're on mic. Okay.
So we're going to start by asking who's in the house. If you are a principal or an administrator, stand up. Woohoo! Thank you. If you go ahead, you can sit down. If you're a teacher, stand up.
Teacher.
Yay, teachers. Yay. If you are a paraprofessional, stand up. Any paras here? They're back with your kids. One, yay! Yay. How about any parents? Or do we have any parents here? Yay, parents. Yay. And any students here? Okay, they're back learning. All right, well, thank you. We're glad to have you here. Okay, so we're ready for, let's see. There we go.
You start with it.
Sorry, little technical difficulties there. So when Brandon was leaving my school, he was with me from first grade through fifth grade. And when he was leaving and going to middle school, I got a thank you from the Grubers. And attached to that was a copy of a letter that Brandon's dad, Tim, had written to him 6 months before he was born. I'd like to read that to you if I can. Dear Brandon or Brianna, with each passing day, my enthusiasm for your arrival becomes greater. You are truly a gift from God himself. Mom sings to you with the voice of an angel. She is so happy you are coming to join our family. Our prayer is that you are a healthy, intelligent person for all the days of your life. Our world is much different from the youth of my remembrance. Violence and filth permeate through this world. It is my belief that you will be a leader of people in all that you do. Rest well, my precious one, in the comfort of your radiant mother's womb. She has done her best to keep you healthy and safe. I dream of the day we sail upon the oceans, catching fish to our heart's content. I promise to wait. Love, Dad.
So 3 weeks before Brandon was born, or a month before, he came early. We were not expecting him to come early. And so if you could imagine, we waited for like 13 years before his arrival. And so my husband and I were talking about, gosh, what school is he or she going to go to? Softball scholarship or track scholarship? And, all these different things were going through our head. And he came early, and 10 minutes after his birth, we found out that he had Down syndrome. And we looked at each other like, oh my gosh, now what do we do? We don't have a, plan for this one. And so everyone started calling us, just thanking us for the great baby shower and all of that. And I'm like, oh my God, how do we tell people? We don't want people to feel sorry for us. So with our birth announcement, my husband wrote this little note, and I just paraphrased it. It was a little longer. The miracle of life brings with it many challenges. Just minutes after Brandon's arrival, we found out that he had a condition called Down syndrome. At first, we were taken aback, but now realize the special gift children with Down syndrome bring to a family. He's already altered the way we sleep, think, and love. Sleep deprivation can do this to a person. We look forward to Brandon meeting and playing with his cousins and extended family soon. We love all of you. Love, Tim, Teresa, and Brandon.
Hello. My parents had no idea.
Then play the. Is that it? Oh gosh. Okay. Sorry, this is.
It's right here. Oh, we thought we were ready. Okay, here we go.
What makes Brandon special is his compassion for others. He has a real ability to, he wants the best for others. He's not just looking to help himself in things and the actions that he does, his foundation. That's not for him, that's for others. So when he achieves a certain level of recognition, he always brings people in with him. So he's a real includer. And I think that's not something that you really teach a child. That's something that they have in their DNA, their inner core.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Glover. I'm age 20.
Just in this past year since he graduated from high school, up to date, he's raised over $29,000. And they all have to do with giving access, experiences, inclusion, and opportunities for individuals who either have a special need of some sort or under-resourced in any way.
I raised over like 29,000, so I spent my years being positive.
So you just like helping people?
A lot.
Do you have a personal motto?
Yes, I do actually. It's to work hard, choose kindness every day, and also just be yourself.
We are in the presence of greatness. Our very own Brandon Beaver has agreed to do a special performance tonight. Give it up.
What about your dancing? You didn't talk anything about your dancing, but you know. You're voted what? Hello.
The best dancer.
Yeah.
Hey.
School. Hey.
Hey, hello.
मदर्स डे की आप सभी को ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं। मेरे साथ फरीदाबाद में 4 लड़कियां मेरे साथ बैठी हैं जो कि अपने घर से बहुत दूर रहती हैं। तो सबसे पहले इनसे सवाल।
Whoops. Okay, all right. Okay. All right.
First lesson. You need to build a team of support. This was my first team, and it grew over the years. Mrs. Olson set the stage for success. Each teacher focused on my abilities and found my strengths. Like reading, art, and acting, there are some of them. My goal was to make honor roll.
So you didn't think that just going to school and showing up to class and working hard was good enough? You wanted to make honor roll?
I had to.
Oh, no.
Because I worked very hard on it. And I made honor roll every quarter from 5th to 8th grade.
Excellent.
After middle school, we moved. And I was shut out of many things.
So you weren't in all the things that you wanted to be in?
And there are reasons too. Because I had Down syndrome, but they didn't know me yet.
Oh, they didn't know you.
I would define myself that.
Uh-huh.
Perfect. I started alone, and I just needed one person to believe in me.
So you started alone. You didn't know anyone on campus. You just had to go to a new high school by yourself. Is that hard?
Extremely hard
Was
with Down syndrome, yes.
Uh-huh. Okay, they weren't used to seeing someone like you on campus, huh?
Imagine being a new student like me at a high school that didn't know my school history.
So they didn't know that you were in 6 plays in middle school, 11 plays altogether, or you made an honor roll or any of that? They didn't know any of that?
They don't know those things, sorry.
Oh, okay. So you got bullied and you were excluded and isolated, and how was that for you?
For starters, it's not as great for me as a student there. Well,
that's part of your story, huh?
That's part of it.
Okay.
Three men were my bodyguards and had my back. My high school basketball coach, case manager, and weightlifting teachers.
So as you notice, they were wearing that. That was his 18th birthday party, and it was like an inclusive dance, Hollywood style.
My next lesson, this is from my quotes of my own. You fall down and you get back up again. I had so many doors closed in my face, but I never give up.
I know.
I keep on going. Community involvement was great experience for me. Now it's time to put my leadership skills into motion.
So you mean, okay, so you worked for Congressman Sanfar as an intern, you were appointed a seat on the Youth City Council for Santa Cruz, and you worked for kids who had cancer. You cooked for them every week. That wasn't good enough? You weren't happy just doing things in the community?
I did at first. I had all of these things, but I still need the skill.
And you wanted to use your skills in school?
In high school, yes. But this lesson is when the door opens, the final door, you run in. Next up, ASB leadership in high school. I had to get in.
Okay, so we didn't, he was not chosen to get in, and we were he was locked out actually. They never had a student like him in leadership, and they didn't think that he was going to come back, but he was like the nightmare student that said, I'm back. And in our IEP, we said, I want it written in the IEP, no leadership, nothing that has to do with that class, because you don't want to see this mom go on people.
Go Chinese.
So, oh no, Asian. Sorry. Asian, sorry. Anyhow, unscripted, sorry.
I had to. I got fed up, and I fired my parents. It was game on.
So halfway through Brandon's junior year, we called his case manager during Christmas break, and I said, out of here. We're gone. We're not coming back to this high school. My husband and I have had it. We're either going to have to really do some major change here on our part, but he's not coming back. I called his aide and said the same thing. We went and saw a consultant. I had everything all set up. I was so excited. We're going to just start working toward his future. And she asked the question, so Brandon, are you ready to leave your high school?
I said, no, I need to be there because there are 4 suicides. Wow.
Okay.
In the same school.
And you thought that you could make change there?
I can. That's the only reason I had to go to the ASB leadership.
Okay, so what happened?
I finally got into ASB leadership.
Oh, wow. Okay. So once you got into ASB leadership, then you joined the MSA, the Migrant Student Association.
All different clubs, including that.
And you were the only Latino in that, non-Latino in that club?
Yes.
Oh, and did they have a special name for you?
They have a name for me.
Oh, what was it?
It was tied to all different names. But, and they call me Santiago Chavez.
Santiago Chavez was his name, and he wore it very well. He loved it. So when you said that you were going to blow up your senior year, you really meant it, right?
I predicted it.
You predicted it, and we're like, oh yeah, right, okay, another year. Well, no, we were very sarcastic. But what happened?
I showed them who I was, and I was voted the best dancer in most school spirits, and most proudly, homecoming king.
Yeah.
There's one more thing. I got straight A's too.
Oh, wow. So when he came home that night, he was wearing his crown. It was like a big whole week thing, and we were like, oh, it's not going to happen, whatever. But he won by a landslide. And he said, okay, now I'm ready to, 5, yeah, there are 5 guys. Now I'm going to go change the world, right? Did you say that? I'm like, oh no, now what? I thought we were almost done with high school. And you said, I'm going to sell your what?
All cards.
And help other students. Okay, so at Brandon's homecoming rally, the announcer said, in 10 years, Brandon would like to be acting, modeling, or doing something in the arts in LA or New York. And my husband and I are looking at each other like, oh no, not this too. Have you achieved any of these?
Yes, I'm just ahead of schedule by 9.
Oh, you're ahead of the schedule by 9 years, huh? What did you do?
I auditioned for LA Fashion Week and a TV pilot, and I got into both. It was super cool. Okay, Mrs. Olsen will talk, and I will be back.
I'm not nearly as cute.
All of us are so busy trying to fit in, we don't realize how special it is to be special. I met Brandon Gruber 6 years ago when I was doing a video about tennis clinic for kids with Down syndrome.
What I think the biggest misconception is that kids with Down syndrome can't really do anything.
What we've learned is that people with Down syndrome have the same hopes and dreams as everyone else.
I really didn't know very much about Down syndrome except for what I had gleaned having my children. I was in my 30s, and so it was standard to go in and have genetic counseling. They were looking for issues like Tay-Sachs, Down syndrome, spina bifida, all of them painted with the same brush of,
The doctor came in and after about 10 minutes after Brandon was born and said, we think there's a problem or he might have Down syndrome.
For Brandon and his parents, when they were told that their son had Down syndrome, there was nothing positive about it.
The information they gave me from the hospital, they were talking about mongoloid.
And then he proceeded to list all these things that might be wrong.
I mean, I had no idea what I was dealing with.
The cool thing about Brandon's parents is that they focused on his abilities from the beginning and never his disabilities, and the results have been amazing.
Hey, Brandon is an artist, an actor, and a model. In his young life, Brandon has worked hard to overcome speech and motor development delays, and from kindergarten through 8th grade, with the help of an instructional assistant, Brandon was fully included in all subject areas.
Brandon's parents were huge advocates for him, so whenever he started school, they made sure the school saw the child and not the label.
Teresa brought Brandon to see me, and she brought him in the front, and we sat down in the lobby, and she had him read a book to me. She pointed out what he could do, not what he couldn't do, and that was pretty amazing, and that encapsulates a lot of what has really happened with Brandon through the years. It's not about what he can't do, it's about what he can do.
So when you first started school, how did you feel?
Isolated and didn't care for anyone out there.
When Brandon went into high school, his father had this tragic surfing accident, so his parents did not have the opportunity to do the usual introduction, and Brandon was on his own.
Because I have Down syndrome, they see me in a different way. They call me mean names and trying to throw junk at my face.
Brandon would come into the nurse's office, and I became a safe place for him to feel included.
Knowing that he was going through that and I didn't do anything to help just makes me feel sad.
Aptos High School is dealing with the suicides of 2 students.
Wow, that really impacts me. I decided to make my life different, to break out my shyness and get more loose, be me.
He went from bullied freshman to homecoming king, and along the way he realized there were so many other students that were being excluded. The school Brandon went to was very financially divided. There were a lot of migrant worker families and a lot of tech families. He raised money to take these kids to a winter formal, something they never imagined they could do.
I feel like Cinderella.
I don't think I would have never got the experience without him.
He had so much fun. He raised even more money to do it, for the prom, for yearbooks. He recognizes students who otherwise aren't seen but are achieving the best that they can do. He sees that. His vision is spectacular. His mission is beautiful. His story needs to be told. Follow this campaign and share it with your friends. Together we can make this happen.
Now I did it again. Sorry. Somebody else might have to do this while I... Okay, there we go. I got All right. So that initial interaction with Teresa, where Brandon read the book to me, set the whole tone for his schooling. And we started focusing on what he could do, not what he couldn't do. I had no idea how to include a student with special needs, fully include them. I'd read some books and read some articles, but I was certainly not the expert. But we tried, and Brandon taught us the best way to do that. The focus on the positive came from the staff and then from the parents, and then it quickly moved to the staff. I remember being in an IEP and hearing Teresa say, we don't really care about him being on grade level academically. We want him exposed to the curriculum, and we want him to participate with his peers. When he was just a little guy, his classmates soon learned that they could count on Brandon to read the math problems to them, because he read so well, even in first grade. And he has a great rote memory, which served him well when memorizing facts in science or social studies. And he always did well on his spelling tests because he could memorize so well. Another of Brandon's strengths is his work ethic. This kid never gives up. He works, I don't know of anybody who works harder or longer. He's been known to study during dinner, while riding in the car, any other time of day. As soon as he wakes up, his mom had flashcards for him, and he would study. His paraprofessional would support the teacher by gleaning those essential elements from the lesson and then formatting them in a way that Brandon could learn them and memorize them. And with this help, he worked tirelessly to learn the material. To this day, Brandon continues to teach us that it's not about limitations, it's about assets and strengths. It's about recognizing those strengths and then using them to craft a positive educational experience. When Brandon was in first grade, his profile did not fit the typical student, but there were several things that we learned that worked with Brandon. Some of the strategies we learned is I handpicked his teacher every year. In the spring, I would look at the teachers and the grade coming up, look at their strengths, look at their ability to learn and their ability to be flexible in their classroom, and I would handpick his teacher. We would introduce Brandon to that teacher at the end of the school year and let the current year's teacher and next year's teacher would begin to communicate. And then about a week before school started, we'd have Brandon come in again where we'd let him walk through the classroom, get to know where his desk was, see where his cubby was, and front load him so when he walked in on day one to the new classroom, he was already familiar with the classroom and the teacher. We used his IEP to identify standards that were important for his educational growth. While the standards were at grade level, we adjusted the goals to meet his learning needs. At times, it was a hard sell for some staff members to convince him that it was okay if he didn't meet every single grade level standard. We adjusted his homework to meet his needs. When he was he'd have shortened assignments, or sometimes he had a different way of showing what he knew. Study guides were indispensable for him because he would take that study guide, he could memorize the answers to the test, and then sometimes he'd have a different way of showing on the test, but he could produce those answers. We learned that front-loading was the key. The teacher and the paraprofessional would pre-teach concepts to Brandon, and then his parents would help him study. He had a paraprofessional with him all of his elementary years, and we learned that was a great support for him. The paraprofessional was assigned to the classroom, so sometimes she would work with the other students while the teacher worked with Brandon, and sometimes she would work with Brandon. One of my little secrets is I would always put another student in there that probably didn't have an IEP that really could use those supports. It provided somebody for Brandon to be able to work with, and when the paraprofessional wasn't working directly with him, the second student got some additional help. It was a sneaky way for getting help without an IEP. Every year in January, Teresa would stop by to see me, and she would say, okay, can we do it? So we were in second grade. She'd say, can he do third grade with his typical peers? And I would say something like, well, worked in second grade. I don't know why it won't work in third grade. And then in third grade in January, she'd be back. Can Brendan still hang with his typical peers next year? And I'd say, well, it's worked in third grade. I don't know why it won't work in fourth grade. And that did fine until it came to fifth grade. And we both knew the content was much heavier in fifth grade, and we were both a little worried about it. But we decided we were going to give it a try with an excellent teacher and decided to craft an educational experience that would meet his needs. We came up with 2 key ideas that made it work for him. The first was that his homework was just focused on one subject area at a time. So for a month, he would do just the science homework. And the next month, he would do just the social studies homework. He would still take the tests, and he would still have the study guide and learn what he needed to on the tests, and as well as complete all the projects. But by reducing the homework load, it helped him learn some of those, or have time to learn some of the other things for the test. The second idea that we tried in 5th grade was putting him in the GATE program. We had a Renzulli strand. I don't know if you're familiar with Joseph Renzulli's work, but it's a project-based GATE strand where the kids would pick a topic of their interest. They would do the research on their topic, and then they would teach their peers. The whole premise by Joseph Renzulli is if you teach, you really learn. Brandon was a perfect match for that. He was with kids who were highly motivated, and there were very few behavior issues, and he fit right in with that. He was able to pick a topic of his choice, learn about it, and then in turn present it to his peers. The reason these strategies worked is because we built on his strengths and we helped set him up for success. We also learned that behavior is communication. We tried to anticipate behavior and provide an outlet before the behavior started. When Brandon was a little guy, he would often be delivering books to a teacher next door, mostly because he just needed a break. So we would anticipate that he had a need, and before his behaviors would erupt, he'd get a little break on campus and he was ready to come back and focus again. A visual schedule on the board helped him know what was coming next and help him anticipate any changes in his day. And then we realized that communication between the adults on campus was key. Communication between last year's teacher and this year's teacher, between the teachers and the paraprofessionals, between the parents and the teacher. That was all a key to making it work for him. Okay, ready for the next one. Whoops. What happened to our clicker? There it is. Sorry. Okay. So I am proud to say I have a degree from BG University, Brandon Gruber University. I learned more in my 6 years with Brandon than I'm sure he ever did, even though we were at the same school. I didn't know how to fully include a student when he started in 1st grade. But by the time I finished, he had taught me a lot about what works for Brandon. He taught me that intelligence comes in many different forms. He developed genuine friendships with his same-age peers, and the parallel play that we saw earlier in the years developed into reciprocal play. He was keenly aware of the needs and emotions of others. This talent of Brandon's grew and developed until it eventually led to the story you saw about his fundraising to take 19 of his peers to the senior prom and winter ball. He also taught me that all learning is not academic. Brandon is a social emotional genius. He excelled in the social emotional world, and he taught all of us about acceptance and kindness. I was not going to do this. Brandon never judges another on their economic status or where they come from or what they look like. Each person is treated fairly and equally. He values a person based on how they treat others. For Brandon, I learned that the other students learned that we are more alike than different. Our school is a better place because Brandon was there. So Brandon, you had an interesting experience when you were in middle school and you were in a play, and you were cast as had a leading role in the play. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, but you had an understudy to help you just in case you needed some help. So what happened?
Well, I was finished with the first one, and it's comes down to my second one.
Okay, I'll help here. So Brandon was all ready. We had the speech therapist. Everyone was locked and loaded. He was ready to go. He did the first one perfectly. There were 3. And over a course of a weekend, 60 of our friends and family would come from all over to support him, and teachers and all of that. And instead of going stage right, Brandon goes stage left off the stage. And the director runs back there, and the understudy's like, what do I do? And they push him on the stage, and so he took over Brandon's spot. And Brandon's back there, and the director says, Brandon, you're supposed to be on right now. And he goes, oh, I know. He goes, hold it, you know that you're supposed to be on? He goes, why aren't you on? He goes, because Patrick has worked so hard this whole time, and I wanted him to have a chance. Was that the truth, Fran?
That's what I said.
Yeah, so Mr. Schneider said, so you did that on purpose? He goes, oh yeah. He goes, so does that mean after the break, you're gonna come back and do the rest of the dances and all of that? And he goes, yeah, it's a big deal. And he says, he has a lump in his throat, a little tear in his eyes. He goes, rock on, Brandon. And the lights went on. And the whole, group thought that he made a mistake. The parents of Patrick thought, oh yeah, see, my boy took care of your guy. And my husband and I are kicking each other like, what's going on? What's happening? And Mr. Schneider tells me the story, and we're like, social emotional intelligence. You can't put a price tag on that one.
Teresa would come in regularly to talk with me about next steps for Brandon. I remember when he was in second grade, she came in and wanted to talk about high school. Well, the bubble in my head said, this woman is crazy, the kid is 7. But my principal voice said something like, so, what are your concerns? But I learned that planning ahead makes a difference. The future can be valuable help him in his educational experience. In our conversation, she would talk about what she wanted for Brandon in high school and beyond as a young adult, and they were based on his strengths and learning and his goals to be independent, self-advocacy, and positive interactions with peers. Okay. Should I read this one? I just wanted to share with you, this is part of his individual program plan when he was 3 years old. And there's a section called Hopes, Dreams, and Goals. I see some heads nodding. And let me just share part of that with you and see if this happened. When asked about her hopes and dreams for Brandon over the next 3 to 5 years, Teresa and Tim indicated that their desire is to see their son integrated to as great an extent as possible without experiencing failure with his age mates during his early years, if possible. She'd like to see Brandon develop a cadre of typical developing friends and become involved with sports and other activities of interest to children of that age. They are thankful for the help and support Brandon is receiving from friends to achieve his academic goals. With regards to their long-term dream for Brandon, Teresa and Tim shared that they would like to see their son be able to communicate effectively and be able to read so that he can function within society and be successful in whatever interests, educational endeavors he chooses to pursue. The parents are hopeful that they will be able to create as many options for Brandon as possible and that he will be the one, not society, to set his own limits.
Can you do this one? Yeah, we're gonna have to go through this one.
Okay, one more story. This was when Brandon was in about second grade, and it was one of those days where he did not want to come off the slide at recess. He was at the top of the play structure and refused to come down. After lots of cajoling and talking from everybody around, nobody could get him down, so they called me. So I go out there, I think I was in a dress and heels on that particular day, climb up to the top of the slide, put Brandon on my lap, and we came down the slide together. Well, Brandon learned that you really do need to come off the slide at recess. And I learned that sometimes you have to think outside the box to make it happen for a student.
We're gonna have to go on to the next one.
Okay, should we do this?
We're gonna just skip relationships, but I had relationships with everyone, whether I needed to or not. Janitor, everyone, and they all helped me throughout the years.
And they were full inclusion parents. Teresa participated in everything, and because she did, Brandon did. Okay.
Beyond a village, I studied alone. This is who I finished with. This was my team. I got my own job at Beall Surf. And I spoke at a leadership summit for my former school district.
How did they respond to you, Brandon?
And standing ovation. in our book, Barriers for Inclusion.
So this was the MSA. He actually graduated with a group as the only non-Latino, as Santiago Chavez, no, actually, Randy Gruber. And then he was on the student senate. He was a student senator, which is another very fun story, but he shocked the world and was on at the Cabrillo College.
I'll tell you that story.
So he's doing it all right now. He's currently doing all of these different things and more.
I'm using my voice for positive change around the world.
Including, we just got back from Scotland. He spoke there in front of 99 countries.
And these are my lessons you cannot learn in a book.
Go ahead, man. We'll have some final thoughts.
One more video that disappeared. Here, I'll let you do it. It's right there. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to just do this? No. This is right here. How do I do it? No. There it is.
Here we go.
There it is.
Yeah, but you don't need it on there. Here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I moved. It was hard. No one knew the real me. Limited, many thought, but I never give up. Because my parents believed in me and my former community cheered me on, I kept on going. They were bullies, doubters, and excluders. I just needed a chance. I showed them who I was, and I blew up my senior year. I finally felt included. I wanted others to share my experience, so I sold my art cards. My motto: work hard, choose kindness every day, and be yourself. Big changes begin with one idea put into action. It only takes one to inspire one. drop the label, then we can change the minds, hearts, and lives of others. Besides, labels are for kids.
Okay, cut it.
Every one of us starts out as a wide-eyed recruit, myself included. If I could go back, I'd tell that kid, you'll see him do things that'll help change the world, that'll change you. I'm General Dave Goldfein. Come join us. Your nation is waiting.
Parents, don't give up on your child, guys. That's one of my quotes for all the parents. Administrators, thank you for coming. And think can and not can't. Teachers, open the doors and give us a chance.